Okay, it's kind of hard to tell where starting this game actually happens. Um I recorded myself as starting playing, I think, either yesterday. I couldn't sleep, so I'm up at stupid time and probably going to go back to bed. Oh, well, I'm definitely going to go back to bed. It's just how, whether I'm going to read a little bit first. But, or is it, the setup, right? Like, I think I recorded myself as starting playing yesterday. It may have even been the day before, uh, although I highly doubt that because I don't know. I think I started setup the day before, but anyway. I still don't feel like I've started the game yet, but I've recorded the starting movement plots for the Zodani. They must do this at the beginning of the game, and the way I'm doing this, based on the rules, I may end up finding something different. But I find myself a record column row for each of the different fleets that I currently have in the game. Now this is going to be a little weird because I'm starting here, running through all of these. I gave spaces for all of those. I did not make spaces for all of these fleets. We'll see. I may end up having to do some sort of just replacement, but it's only scrap paper. Who cares? And then on the other side, or on the other sheet. I gotta be careful. I probably have sensitive information on some of these. Like account information is there. I've got the non Zodon fleets. I think what I'll end up doing in this case is just add a sheet of paper on top of this for the 4, 5, 6, 7 fleets that I haven't recorded yet. I think that'll work pretty well. This is going to be a little uglier because I had to play with the first provisional to be the colonial fleet. I don't know why. Don't ask me. But I make my mind up about things like that, and they just have to happen. So, like, all the fleets that I have written down currently are fleets that are available. I don't have the 16th colonial deployed, but I can break it out if I want to. I actually was considering combining the Vargar fleets. I'm a little worried because if Fate contains the main Imperial strike force right now, that's this fleet. And there's kind of nothing else that would really stand against any of the fleets that I have out here right now. I mean, yeah, this one. That's just busy ferrying to capture an extra planet because I have an extra fleet. But it's then going to ferry back and grab troops and try to move forward and everything. Let me explain, I guess, my plan, such as it were. These guys are going to join in against here. Basically, this is all going to collapse on whatever this is. Jewel, and try to capture some of the planets there, rack up some score, and knock out the fleet there, if I can do that. And then gather together with the main Zodani strike force moving in this direction towards the main Imperial force. I've got much more than the main Imperial force. I mean, if you look at now, there are ground troops mixed in here and everything. But if you look at the stacks there, it's just so much bigger than this. And there's probably ground troops mixed into here too. Nope, not really. Oh, well. I may have to pick some up. I kind of didn't want to because I kind of want to fight. I don't want to lose troops with ships, whereas the Zodani have to invade. I don't necessarily have to get my troops off the planet. One notable thing, the Fate, this little battle, or not a Fate, Esalen battle, I'm going to just ignore that. Usually I'm drawn to it and I'm like, oh, I must win this battle. It's the only fighting place on the map, it really doesn't matter that much. It could serve as like a refueling place, but the way the movement combat works in this game, you grab a base and you're supplied. If you grab a planet, you are pretty much in supply as much as if you had owned it at the beginning of the turn. So there's not really much reason to worry about the possibility of leaving thorns in your back area that the enemy can use as bases or anything along those lines. You don't have to worry about that. So the main focus in this game is going to be knock out the Imperial Navy as it starts to come on the board. Get to it as fastest as I can and destroy it piecemeal before it gets as big as mine. Because the Imperial Navy is better than mine, right? They have the quality because of tech level mainly. Looking at some of the leadership values, I got one fleet here with a command rating or whatever of 1. He has to plot 1 turn in advance. That's essentially the same as a 0. On a 0, I have to move. So there's a slight difference, and here's where it is. A 0 might move after after the enemy zeros move, but what's happening here is I have to plot 1 turn in advance. Well, okay, everybody's plotting 1 turn at least in advance. That first turn, I know exactly what I'm going to do. But if this was if this was, say, the second turn of the game, I would be plotting the second turn at the end of the first turn, after I see what happens on the first turn. Basically, the next thing that happens is I move. So it's pretty damn close to the same as a 0. So 0s and 1s are pretty damn good, but 1s require you to write more shit down. Actually leaving the provincial governor of Kronar, or whatever. He's called something. Yeah, provincial governor. Behind, because he can serve to help ferry troops if I end up with a horrible admiral. He's pretty bad with that -1 tactical rating, whatever. I don't have to write anything down for the Imperials yet. At the end of this turn, I will have to. And if I had staged here, there would be a 4 and 6 chance that the Imperials would get to write orders before the game starts. The main thing that I see as a problem with that is this fleet. These others, yeah, maybe they can avoid me, but especially these guys in the back, they're probably going to be moving forward and trying to reinforce. Didn't do a hell of a lot, but I spent a lot of time doing it. It takes fucking forever to, figure out what planet can I fuel, what planet am I safe to go into? Do I have to refuel for a turn there? Which ones are worth value because the tech level victory points isn't on the map. You have to do the cross-reference over there for each planet in an area that you can reach. Then you have to be able to figure out, well, what's the fastest way here because you take the fuel considerations into account and all kind of stuff like that. So this is why the game is so damn tedious for me, is just the amount of effort that you have to put into making these simple decisions for movement. And unfortunately, that's not a problem, particularly with the movement plot. Like, you couldn't clear this up by getting rid of movement plot, which I think you could do. Honestly, it's a neat feature, and I think it works well in solo. I don't think it has a huge impact on the play itself, especially if you're playing with the rules as written, which allow you to just cancel a move whenever you want. And I think I'm going to be forced into that because otherwise I have to start coming up with rules for, when you're allowed to cancel a rule or a plot, rather than, and this is the kind of thing that the designers didn't want to do. And they're going to be fairly complex rules. Now, I don't necessarily have to spell them all out, but I'm just worried that they're just going to become too much of a pain and not worth it. All right, I'm done. I'm too tired to even speak properly. In a game, I like to get a little bit of detail into what I'm showing, and that should be pretty easy because this first turn, there aren't as many pieces on the board as there will be eventually, and one side is not doing much at all, the Imperials, because their plots aren't written yet. So there's not going to be any reinforcement going on. Replacements don't kick in yet. Let me check here. Not that you can hold them as far as I know anyway. Well, we have 3 initial troop replacements, so I guess you can hold on to them. I'll have to look. Oh, because I don't think that's 3 a turn, but it might be. Anyway. Fine, I'll look up Rule 6. I should have realized this, but the wording to it was weird. Like, it's talking about not every turn and stuff like that. Imperial reinforcements now. Replacements. During the replacement step, both players receive replacement points and may use these RPs plus any accumulated ones. Only Zodon and Imperials get them. The initial column shows accumulated ones at the start of the game. Other columns specify the turn or turns that they're received. If more than one turn is specified, then they come in each turn. If you don't get, you will not get RPs on every turn of the game. Okay, yeah. So actually, I have 3 initial ones for the Imperials. Now, do I have any? I can't use them. I haven't taken any losses. Oh, I have a whole pile of initial ones for the Zodani. They're expected to take some losses, I guess. Okay. So, unfortunately, the game opens, the rulebook opens up with what's basically flavor text. Some of the events that are happening as the war starts. Now, a little bit of this at the beginning is fine, but a couple of pages right at the beginning is a little disconcerting, especially when everything's written as, you know, basically regular prose. But movement phase. Discretionary movement. We're going to roll. Odd, the Zodani have to go first. Even, it's the Imperials. Okay, so the Zodani have to go first with their discretionary. I have no scouts cleared. I have only one discretionary order, the 15th Colonial, which is here. Now, when I'm plotting my movement, things are easy, and I just assume I've got it right and then check and make sure and find out that I'm wrong. Theoretically, I should have to paw through here and find that everything's B3. It all is. Oh, well, there's C3s as well. I have at least jumped 3. Now, because I haven't plotted it, you get to see kind of what I had to think of with plotting. I am not fully streamlined. I have a jump rate of 3. And where am I going? Well, I don't know if anybody's going to 1409, so I'm going to look down the line. I'm going to 1410, which is Emerald, but I don't think anybody's going to 1409. Who's going to 1410? The second assault, they're going to work their way there. So it seems like a good idea for me to go to Ruby. And again, this is how the plotting is done, but you do it several turns in advance. I look at Ruby. It's a high-value vacuum world with with a starport, so it's fueling. It has a gas giant. What are we talking about? The 15th Colonial. How many ships do I have? 1, 2, 3. I have 3 squadrons that, are non-streamlined entirely. A B starport allows me to fuel 3 squadrons in 0 turns. So if I take the planet, which I will by just sailing in there, I will be able to refuel. I'm not sure how... It's harder to note that a fleet that isn't plotted isn't refueled. I'll have to figure something out. I could either notate it in pencil or something here, or tilt it or something. But as of right now, that's where I'm going to sail. I will have to leave something behind if I want those victory points for Ruby. 1, 2, 3. I've moved there. I consider myself fully refueled, so I'm not going to notate anything about that. But what I am going to do is note the victory points for the turn. And I have just captured this planet, essentially. Usually you wouldn't check at this moment, but whatever. So that's going to be 11 victory points because it's an Imperial possession and that goes into my hands. My goal in this game is to get to that 300 preferably, before the tide turns. I don't think that's possible. So then the question becomes, well, can I eliminate the Imperial fleet entirely as it comes in piecemeal, which is obviously a good path to that 300, or can I get myself to a victory condition and hold out long enough that, you know, I can declare a victory unilaterally? Okay. I have no loose scouts sitting around, and I mean, I wish I had a scout with this fleet. So I'm going to back away and I'm going to go look at the Imperial side at this point. I'm afraid I may have already cheated. So let's take a look at this. Each player rolls 1 die. The player with the lower number must move first in all situations allowing discretionary movement. So obviously what I should have done first is the X-boat, then the scout, then the well-led fleet movement. I find consolidating sets of things to make life a little easier. Are there times where this really matters? Maybe. You know, scouts might get caught by a fleet. So I just don't know. I'm a little iffy as to what I think I have my scouts out here for. Really, they're things that are capable of absorbing damage in a fleet more than anything else. So I'm going to fly them back here. That's got a gas giant. I'm fully streamlined. I can move there. I gotta actually look at the planet because I don't know what the air quality is there. It's tremendous decks, which I think is this one. It's a vacuum world, so I will capture that. But that's neutral, so it's only worth 6 victory points. I also probably am not going to stick around there. But I could grab things like that to prevent the Zodani from getting their victory levels. I have a fleet commander kicking around. Oh geez, who's this guy? This guy I wanted to put somewhere else. And he is my highest ranked leader, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm gonna stick him down in Rylanor. Yeah, that's a dangerous place. There's a bunch of assholes there. How about I put him in Equus? It's on an X-boat route, and he's not commanding any ships. I want to make sure he's not commanding ships, but I also, if I need him, I want to be able to use him. And because of the Vargar Admiral, I have one extra Admiral comparatively. Now, I haven't plotted out my Imperials yet. Let me just look through. I have the first provisional fleet, which is under a 0 liter. That's sitting here in Regina. Yeah, I'm going to call it Regina, not Regina. It's not clear to me that it was settled by Canadians, so whatever. Well, I got a couple of shitty Jump 1 ships there. And then I have some Jump 3 stuff. I'm going to detach these crappy Jump 1s. And honestly, drop the troops onto planet. They're not going to do much there, but that's okay. And with Jump 3, I can start heading up this way. Now, Jump 3, fully streamlined, I think everybody is. I can space them all out because there isn't a whole lot there. So I could go, here's a Jump 2 that I could pick up. 1, 2, 3 to Roop. And there's a gas giant there, so I can refuel there. Maybe pick this up. And this thing I don't really care about. You know, these Jump 1 ships are pretty damn useless. They're almost PDBs. So that's gotten me there. And now I'm going to go down to the plotted movement step. Now, again, ideally, I should have done the X-boat movement first, which I kind of fudged anyway, because he would have set up differently. The scout squadron movement next. Which was really limited to this. I don't know why I have loose scouts. Ooh, what's this? Oh, let's move these guys too. Again, I think I'd rather centralize them. I probably should have set them up to be more centralized, but whatever. And the well-led fleets, which both sides had. So all the Imperials should have gone except for the Duke of Regina. Plotted movement, the only plotted movement I have is the stuff I have here. So let's work our way through these. 14th Colonial. Let's find them. They're here, and they were going to jump to 1009, which is here. Now, I make a quick check, make sure, yep, I'm C3. This guy's got a 1 command. So he goes to Argoblaster. Now, I have to look up Argoblaster. It is a water world. It's got a sea starport. I have 2 ships, 1 streamlined. The sea starport will be able to refuel actually both squadrons. So there's no problem there. And I would have to mark that he's got a fuel issue if there was a problem. The next one down, 15th Colonial is already moved. 17th Colonial, find it. That's up there. Is moving to 1507 and attaching this. Okay, this is a naval base. I'm automatically going to be refueled at it. And what's kind of weird is it doesn't have to be my naval base. You know, you capture the installations when you take a planet, which is why you basically have no supply. First of all, you have no supply lines because the only thing you're interested in is the refueling, but also you have no real considerations. It's not like there's a fight for the base that might destroy it or something like that. The next one's the first assault, which is going to J1510. That's up here. That's going to jump to Jewel. I am able to refuel immediately, I believe, because there's a gas giant there. Let's make sure that the first assault is able to refuel under such conditions. No, it probably needs to fuel. So currently, that's going to be in a I am not fueled state. Now, it's a 1 liter. I probably ought to mark it somehow. I don't know what I'm going to do in the long run. But right now I need a short-term solution. It may refuel after a fight. It's probably going to win the fight there. But, okay. That gets me the second assault, who's going to 12-12, which is Quar. All right. We look at Quar. Quar does not immediately surrender. Second assault has non-streamlined ships. Now, I've got a tanker with me. I could blow the tanker and refuel, but I don't want to do that quite yet. So I'm in that must resolve this space. And I think I'm going to want to put some kind of marker here because, again, these are spaces that I just invaded and need to resolve. What's going on here at Quare? Not to confuse that with Quar, right? Quare is worth 4.5 victory points. Probably not worth wasting anything on. This is third assault, which is going to 15-20. I do have some scouts or something that could hold it, but let's wait until we have more victory points. We can dispatch stuff, maybe reinforcements come through or something. So we're taking the whole fleet with us to 15-20, which is Frenzy. Now we have to look at Frenzy. Frenzy is a vacuum world. It immediately surrenders. It's got a naval base. We're all in good shape. I'm going to put a marker there, again, because I'm getting like 11 victory points for taking that. I kind of feel like I want like a whiteboard, you know, to keep track of points, because as you abandon planets. But the problem is, if you abandon a planet, you probably did it accidentally, not realizing that you were doing that. Well, that's not everybody. I got 4 more fleets left. And no hands. Hold on. Planning on just moving the Sword Worlds and Vargar, coming back and reporting on it. But there's something interesting going on with this one, which, you know, some of the others are like, well, we got to resolve something. But here the resolution is a little harder than anywhere else. We're hitting Villis, which has no gas giant, has water, but it has SDBs, it has forces on it, it's a major planet. Until the Joyous Fleet can deal with what's on the ground there. And it may not be able to. I mean, I am not all that big, and I'm facing 100 SDBs, which puts me here. That is going to be painful. And facing 100 SDBs with, I mean, we're basically facing off against each other. So this is going to be a really problematic attack. I'm not sure why I moved there. The Sword World fleet isn't all on the board to begin with is the problem. My first one here is 1527, which is luckily a base, so I don't have to worry too much about that. This may have been kind of a fuck up. I don't know. Saurus I could have dealt with instead. The problem with that is then I have to put a garrison on it, and it's only worth 7 victory points, and I want to get into the meat of the empire where the victory points are higher. I only have so many ground units, etc. Right? I don't know. I mean, I could put a little unit to garrison someplace, but anyway. I'm not... Yeah, this was a pretty well streamlined fleet. It could have... The only problem there would be the tanker, which I could refuel at the D port. So Saurus would have been a better move. I could easily wipe out 2 points of units. And oh well, operational problems. And let's get these others here. 2606 for the Uthith. That's a jump 3, which we're capable of doing. We're hitting Kenorb, which is a water world gas giant. This should be fine. I have partial streamlining everywhere, but I do have to record the points for it. And then the other one is the Guerrille, which has a more complicated... This is just a little... It's one battle crew, one battle squadron doing a little raid. That's going to 2605, which is Dentis. Dentis has basically no defense, so I'll just be landing troops there. Now, normally there would be a whole sequence of plots for the Imperials too, and these all are simultaneous, so it really it doesn't... There's no discretionary movement, so both sides would have completed their plotted movement. The Imperials have no plot, though, for this turn, and their best leader, other than the one who doesn't have to plot, will not have a plot for next turn either. Their first plot is going to be turn 3, because they've got a 2-point leader. And that's going to get us down to the combat phase. And basically everywhere where I have a disc, I got to do some sort of resolution. Where I don't have a disc, I can just tilt these back to indicate that there was nothing special that needed to be done there. Let me make sure tremendous decks. Right. Technically, that needs to be resolved as well. I'm just using one color chipper for now. I might end up using multiple colors at some point. We're on the combat phase now. They don't really tell you how to handle things for this. My feeling is it's easiest to do it planet by planet and handle the entirety of all the combats in any one planet area. Let's start taking care of them and figure out what results. So this is our first one here, Villas. Okay. So we got a complicated situation where there's forces on the ground. First of all, there's 100 SDBs here, and we have no fuel capacity, so we're not going to be able to get out of there without resolving this. Now, I probably shouldn't have gone here, but since we're here, there's not going to be a space combat step, but we hit the interface combat step. And the squadrons present are able to engage in combat with the system defense boats. Let's take a look. It appears to me like the SDBs get first shot. Now I see combat results are given in terms of percentage to the SDBs. They were implemented at the end of the round. Yeah, they both fire simultaneously. They both take place at the end of the round. That's what I thought it was, but I wanted to be sure. Do I want to attack this, or did I blunder in there by mistake? So I got a bombardment factor of 246. I can't use my space combat ability on this. That would be SDB combat. Total bombardment of 6. SDB is 100. Looks like it's just going to do 20%, but I thought there was a die roll involved in this. So let's take a look. Roll 1 die, subtract half the tech level of the SDBs, and subtract 3 if the SDBs are passive, which they sure the hell aren't. This will be... okay, so the SDBs here, we're looking at Villas, are 10. So I'd be rolling a die at -5. Does that make sense? So we're looking at a 20 with a -5. What do we do? I didn't look at this. Cross-index the total bombardment and the full strength of the SDBs. If the modified roll is 0, the intersection is the combat result. That would be a 20. If it's positive, count up the number. Okay, so chances are I'm not going to do much damage here. On a 5 or a 6, on a 4, 5, or 6, I do some damage. On the other hand, if I look at the SDB, that's got 100, which I think is the 60 table. See how that's working. Modified by the tech level of the SDBs, given on the tech level modifier table. That would be a -2. I mean, they're going to hurt me, but I think I want to go for them. The problem here, of course, is that I'm losing real ships that I can't replenish if I get hit. So the SDB against Squadron will be rolling on the 60 table. It's got a -2. I want to make sure. See, unfortunately, they use the current strength to fire against the Squadron. It's used in the same manner as the total on the space combat results table. So let's take a look at the space combat results table. Yeah, you round down. So being at 100 kind of sucks because 60 is my current SDB strength. I would be rolling at a -2. Which means a 3 or a 4 is my normal roll. I'm going to probably... I'll probably be doing some step losses. I honestly just don't think it's worth the attack. Which means we're still here unfueled with the Joyeuse fleet. Which I hope I've noted. I have not. Next turn I'm not able to refuel. That's going to change to just a hold. But I will stay there, and I have not gained the hex yet. How do I note any of this? I don't know. But basically, I was unwilling to engage the SDBs with that fleet. Okay. That means no victory points are generated, and we go up here to the next one. Frenzy. The 3rd Assault Fleet is hitting Frenzy. Frenzy surrendered. I really want to get a track. I'm going to build myself a track for victory points. But right now, we have just gained 10 victory points for for capturing Frenzy. And we're completely refueled, and I don't know if I'm going to leave that there or what, but I have to detach a squadron from the 3rd Assault Fleet to hold this. Now, a scout cannot hold it. So I would have to detach a cruiser squadron to keep those 10 points. Do I want to? Do I not want to? I don't know. I honestly do not know the answer to that. I can do that as I jump. I don't have to plot that. The game doesn't come with a victory point chart. I created a quick one. I may create a turn chart as well. I don't know. But anyway, that's the 10 victory points for that. I'm going to leave this here to indicate that this is still, that this is currently Zodon controlled. I'm expecting blues to be the bigger thing. It may get in the way, we'll see. We don't know. All right, that gets us to the next one. Let's go up here. And we got a bunch of scouts at Tremendous Decks. Tremendous Decks actually swings over to become, temporarily, we're not going to stay there, an Imperial planet because, oh, we have no firepower there. Sorry. Nope, nothing happens there. We don't own it. We better be able to refuel. It's got a gas giant, so that's no problem. We go over to the next one. The next one's a problem. It's Quar. Quar has an SDB presence of 1. The 2nd Assault Fleet is quite large. 1 SDB is not going to do much, right? That doesn't even get us on the table. So, I mean, it's going to hide. I don't know what it does. But I'm going to bomb it while it's hiding. 2nd Assault, I got bombardment factors of 4, 8, 12, 27, and these don't have any. So I got 27 bombardment factors, which gets me to the 24 level. I'm only hitting at 1 target. The SDB, yeah, I didn't check the... Quar has a tech level of 11, so it's -5 to the die roll, with an SDB of 1. So it goes to -8 to the die roll. I roll a die. That's 5 levels down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I kill 80% of that 1 unit. It's not destroyed yet. And so I'll put this here, and I don't know which side we should be using. But such is what's in Quar. 2nd Assault. 2nd Assault, well, I could land troops at this point. Oh no. Yeah, I'm allowed to land troops because they're hidden SDBs. It's not a big deal. I just bombed them. Doesn't do me any good. Now I land my troops. Land troops for surface bombardment. I mean, I'm going to blow this thing away very easily. System defense subset, surface bombardment. Now I'm allowed to bomb. I have that same bombardment, which is going to be on that 24 table again. We haven't looked up how surface bombardment is done. You'd think it would be here. There we go.
SDBs may not engage if they're currently passive. Squadrons use bombardment. Total the strength of all friendly squadrons and SDBs bombarding the system. This can be split as you wish. There's only one unit. The tech level on the tech modifier. And I don't think the surface combat impacts this. So, tech level of Quar is 11, which is a -1 on the surface bombardment. Does that make sense? Seems to go in the wrong direction. The total bombardment factor dies well of the bombed unit. The intersection, the appropriate. -1 to the die roll, yes. Okay. So we hit the unit. We hit it with a 6 is a 5. We do 10% hit to the unit. So that now has a 10% hit on it, for whatever that matters. It means it's only got 10 strength points left, right? Sort of. Okay. Now we land our troops. And this is second assault. I might as well land everything because I can pick everything back up. So. It's 40. All right. So what we just dropped on there is 740, 60, 780. I think tech level works out as 14. 780 to 10. That gets me not quite to 100 to 1. So I'm on the 10 to 1 table. My tech level is 14. Let's see what the ground combat, how that works. Each unit is firing. Subtract the tech level of the attack from the tech level of the unit with the lowest tech level that is contributing any factors to the attack. Okay, so we're actually only using tech level 13 here. I don't want to send this. We won't even send that into the fight. And that's there. All right, so we're at 10 to 1. Tech level of the defending unit is 11. My tech level is 14. So we've got a -3 on the die roll. We roll 2 dice for this. Atmosphere at Quar is inhospitable, which works out to the -1 again, so we're at -4 on the die roll. And we get a 6, which is going to destroy it. They give me a counter to cover that up. I don't know what to use. Hold on. Conquest of the territory, the SDB is also destroyed. I could put another counter there. I'm not going to do that quite yet. I have taken the planet. I know this seems like a lot of work. It will get more comfortable. What I forgot to do was the 10 points back. I'm going to shoot at the armored unit, which means I'm firing at 1 to 2 at +3, because the tech level of the attack unit is bigger. Make it +2. I didn't roll low enough to do any damage. I'm going to load things back up. Quar, though, does require a garrison if I want to hold it, and I do, because it's worth 5.5 victory points, which I'll mark that way. And I'll leave a garrison there. Probably that shitty unit. we've got a naval base here, so now we're resupplied and ready to go. Is it what we wanted? I don't know. Let me work my way through the others. And I'll come back if there's anything really exciting. There may be. This is going to have a naval combat. We'll want to do that. Skipped ahead and handled whatever's happening in Frenzy, landing troops where needed, keeping garrison ships where not. Frenzy. Frenzy is the one where I probably want to garrison with a fleet. The problem with that, I actually didn't drop somebody off. Let me. So I could garrison with ships or troops that are in danger of surrender if the Imperium comes in. Troops may be the cheaper thing in the Frenzy sector. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do there. Over here with Ruby, I actually am leaving a cruiser there for sure. The reason being that the Imperial Navy is too close. Until I get them out of the way, and this is on the main highway of any invasions that happen future, so I feel pretty comfortable leaving that behind. But here, I may want to leave troops there with the assumption that, yes, Frenzy's garrison is incredibly vulnerable, but I don't really know if I want to abandon a squadron there. You know, it's not like I have anything cheap enough. And the game is about the fleets. It really is. Anyway, I'll get back to that decision. I probably ought to mark that somewhere. Right now we're at 41.5 victory points after I allocated the things here, but we have a couple more things to handle. And I'm going to save this for last because it's the most interesting, most complex situation. So here, I decided to go overt. I don't know when I'm supposed to make that decision. 3, 4, 5. So I've got 250 to 500 in an inhospitable world. That doesn't sound great. I'm attacking at 1 to 2. They're attacking me at 2 to 1. They're going to do a lot of hits on me. Actually, they don't have to attack at 2 to 1. They're going to pick off individual units. So, and that's just the way these guerrillas work. They're going to get blasted out of there, unfortunately. Ooh, shit. Well, this was stupid. Actually, both my guerrilla sets were dumbly placed where there's SDBs. Oh, well. All right. I think we'll keep them covert. Because 200 SDBs plus the 500. The problem is Rylanor I'm probably not going to get to. But I got plenty of time to fiddle around with that if that appears to be the case, if I'm not able to push that far. And I doubt that I am. Okay, so we'll forget about that. What we do still have that I haven't dealt with is down here in Esalen, where I have 228 units. They're evenly matched, and this is really just a crapshoot to see who wins the battle. So we'll both be attacking at 1 to 1, and the atmosphere at Esalen is hospitable, so there's no penalties. So let's do the Zodon Attack first. 7. I do a 10% loss. I do a 10% loss on the Imperials. And how, I lost my numbers elsewhere. I think I'm going to use black numbers below units, white on the counters. I don't know. The Imperials come back, and they're hoping they get a lower roll. They get a slightly lower roll, but still only 10%. And there's no tech level difference between them, so we didn't have to worry about that. Oh, so that brings us to the last place, Jewel. Jewel, the fleet has to fight around. So we're looking at the first assault fleet. Let me pull that across. Remember our fuel situation. I think we don't have one, so I'm gonna put this upside down and figure it out after the combat. The Imperials are fueled up though. They, you know, everything starts with full fuel. All right, so what we do is there's no first fire. We want to be able to blow up both these ships, which means we take a look at the space combat. Well, we want to guarantee 2 hits, so we need at least 18 strength points on each. We're Zodon regular against Imperial low, which I think gives us a +1. Well, it gives us 1 to a +1 on the table. So honestly, we just need 12 to get 2 hits on each. We can very easily do that. No worries, we have blown up and destroyed the 2 Imperial ships, which will go back and can be rebuilt with replacement points eventually. But we do have some firepower coming back, 2 points. That's not a lot. And we're not, actually, hold on. We need to do 4 points of damage. It's all accumulated. The defender gets to choose the losses. So as long as we have at least 24 strength points total, we're going to blow both of those up, which we did. Okay, let's come back though. 2 is coming in. That's going to roll only on the 1 table. We don't get penalized for the tech quality difference. We might cause a step loss on a 6. We do not. This was also a +3 to the die roll, so actually it needed almost nothing. So the Imperial ships are destroyed, and this is kind of painful. I'm going to keep them up here because right now I've got my Imperial reserves there. So that's going to be where I keep my damaged units, or maybe I'll keep them down here. They're more, I don't know which is easier to cope with. But anyway, they're available for rebuilding. So that was pretty damn simple. Now we look at Jewel. Jewel is crowded. 120 SDBs. I think we're going to engage simply because, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I mean, 120 is not going to deal with this, but if we don't engage, we're just going to get bombed to shit while we're hiding. Okay. So let's see what the SDBs do. We got 120 SDBs currently, and this will be in step losses. How do we figure that? We had that before. SDBs, fire, this is done, the current strength. Modify this roll by the tech level of the SDBs on the SDB table modifier. So this is the weird thing, is I have to, sometimes you use this, sometimes you use comparative tech level. I think only ground forces use the comparative. Yeah, no, sometimes you use the tech level halved or whatever, yeah, or -5 or something like that. It's just weird. Okay, we got to find Jewel again. There it is. 120. That's a fairly good number. Tech level is 12. Again, not a bad number. Not great, -1. And there's no mods, except for the -1. We get a 2. We're going to do 2 steps to the Zodani. There's no reason to take regular units, although these streamlined units, it's kind of like, there's no reason to take the battle fleets. Honestly, if I didn't have troops on board this, I would take it there, but I'll take it on these. I can repair them at a base. I'm at a base. It doesn't have to be a friendly base, does it? Maybe it does. I may need to create a fleet. Okay. On the other side, coming back, we have 3, 6, 9, 12, 16, 20, 28, 36, 44, 48 bombardment, which actually is not nearly as much as I thought it would be. Total bombardment puts me at 48. Hey, that's a great number to be at. And now, what is my half of the tech level? Tech level is 12, so it's minus 6 on that 48 die roll. 48 to 120, that's going to do 80%, not 80 hits, 80%. Crap, 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 crap. It's got to be going down that way. Let's see. Roll 1 die, subtract half the tech level, minus 6. This modifier, cross-index the total bombardment, and count down the table, yeah. So I go down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I wipe out 40% of the system defense boats. Now, I believe these are done in rounds. Yeah. Which means if I don't run away, I am going to get wiped out, but I'll be doing damage and maybe hitting some of the landing troops. So I think, oh, did I have any jump troops? Yeah, probably not enough. But you know, if I had jump troops that could get down there, there's jump troops. Let's land them. I can take hits on that. This is dangerous. Let's see if I got any more. Because I could lose my real units here. And that's something I don't want to do. There's another jump troop. We don't worry about the anti-grav. That little line under them. Basically, everything is anti-grav except for these wheeled troops. Okay, so now we're firing another round of that. Now, 40% of 120, this is how you use this, is 72. That's my current squadron firepower, which means I'll be firing on the 60 chart. And what was our modifier? It's minus 1. Now I was at 48, but I've dropped 4. Okay, what did I say? Minus 1. 5. So I've done 4 step losses to the Imperials at this point, or to the Zodani at this point. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. On the other hand, I've got a bombardment factor of 44 coming back up. This is at minus 6 due to the tech level. And we're now not facing 120 anymore. But I don't know if that matters. Let me see. We use full combat strength, so we're still firing at that 120. Minus 6. So that means we lose 2. We do 50% more. This is at 90. We did the hits. At this point, there's kind of the, gosh, maybe we want to hide. Because 10% gets us down to this table. We're at -1. We don't have much chance. But if we lose the planet, we lose the SDBs. I don't know. I'm unable to find a rule that says the SDBs are destroyed if a planet is conquered. It may be in there. But there's reason to believe it wouldn't be. So I'm putting this marker here for this one. I think I'm going to go underground with those guys. Because basically it slows the Zodani. They need to leave fleets behind to deal with those SDBs. One way or another. And I can't have ground troops, though, in place with the SDBs there unless I have enough force to drive the SDBs underwater into the gas giants, whatever, wherever they go hide. So I think that it is reasonable for those SDBs to continue to exist the same way it's reasonable for a fleet to exist over a planet that it hasn't conquered, you know. They don't require bases in the course of a turn. And they have basically infinite fuel. So, if I withdraw the SDB, I have bombardment. Now, we were at 48 originally. 2, 4, 6, 8. Of course, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 off of that. Says that my bombardment value goes down to 36. Well, that's a good number. Now, I'm allowed to bombard either or both of the 1200 here or the 100 here. Obviously, the 1200 is a bigger thing and better to bomb. So that's going to be the unit that I hit with that full 36. How does bombardment happen again? I always, because there's different ways each combat is handled a little bit, it's particularly clunky, and I'm going to have to look up a lot of times what I'm actually doing here. So let's see. Modified by the tech as given on the tech level modifiers chart. Okay, so in this case, unlike there where we modify it by half the tech, here it's by the tech level over here, which says there's going to be a -1 on the die roll on the 36 chart. And we roll a 1, which means we wipe out 40% of this force. Okay, now I'm going to land all my troops. First thing I want to deal with is that big 1200. So let me get these guys off too. I've got a lot of different types of troops here. So that 1200, only 40% of it exists. So we look at, unfortunately they don't give a 1200 here. It's easy enough for me to understand though, because 120, 40% of that is 72. So we're looking at 720 is there. Now my odds are 1.5 to 1 and then 2 to 1. Can I get 1440? I don't think so. Let's see what we got here. Well, maybe. There's 1,000. Okay. So that means I probably can get 1440, which means my next guess is, can I get 21, it's the 3-to-1 table, 21, what was I talking about? 720. 2160. Let's see. Probably not there. 1500, 1600. Well, I could count this in. 1600, but this can fire separately. 1660, 1700, 1780. No, 1740, I think. 1780, 1820, 1840. That's not going to work. So what I'm looking for was 1440. Okay. 1,000, 1,100. Obviously, I could do this. 1180. And 40 is 1220. I don't remember now what I'm aiming for. 1260. 1300. 1380. 1400. I'm just short. So I'm going to put my 1500 against them. And they get to shoot back. 1500 against the is the 2-to-1. My technology, my technology's either equal or one better. And the world type is inhospitable. That's important. Okay, what's the tech modifier on the surface combat? Tech. Subtract the tech of the attack from the attack of the unit with the lowest tech level. Yeah, so I'm using this, and that means that I am at even. So this is 2-to-1 at even, with a -1 for the tainted atmosphere. I get a 4. No, I cheated. No! I do 70% of this unit. Okay, it is destroyed, which is way better than I would have expected. Let's put that there to remind me, because I've got a second attack, but I want to keep that 40%, you know, I want to keep track of what I got there. I actually have a first fire here that I was going to use against that other unit. So 20 and 40, 60, 160, 180, 200. So I've got 2-to-1 against that, and I've got a tech level bonus, so it's at -2, and this is first fire. Not as good. I do a 20% hit on the unit. Okay. Now we've got this fire. This is not first fire. Neither was this. I kind of cheated and did the first fire afterwards, because I wanted to allocate everything, and then once I had my numbers, I'm like, okay. Okay, so 20 and 40, 60, and 80 is 140, 180, 180, 220, 260, 360, 280. That sounds like 4-to-1 to me. I've got a Tech 13 in there. I need it for the shift, so I'll keep it. -1, 4-to-1 doesn't matter. I'll leave this unit out of the battle. Can't do anything against the big unit, so yeah. So I'm at 3-to-1 at -2. I get a 9, that's 20% more. I'm going to put another 20% here so that I can keep track of the damage. And now here comes the responding fire, and this is simultaneous. So I have 720 and 80. I have 800 coming in. I'm not allowed, how am I allowed to split? You can split your fire to different things. So I have that 800 points to fire at enemy units. What do I want to blow up? Well, first fire stuff is great to blow up. I am going to go at 5 to 1. How did tech work? It's tech difference, right? Yeah. 5 to 1 against this. That is at even die roll. Because the tech level's higher. A 10, I got a 40% hit on that unit. And you can see how calculations are just going to become so tedious. Because, you know, this was hard enough to see, yeah, that's worth 40, but now it's worth 60% of 40. You know? And that's not trivial. What I have to do is this. I get 8, that's going to be 16. That doesn't sound like enough. That doesn't sound right. Oh, I'm sorry. It's 40% lost. So yeah, that's going to be 12, which is 24. And I'm going to have to do that kind of lookup and calculation. And when you have a bunch of units hitting all at once, it's just horrible. If I've got like one unit fighting one unit somewhere, fine. But like the Invasion Earth system, which is very similar, combat is incredibly tedious. Luckily, ground combat is not a major part. It's not the primary focus of the game, but you're spending a lot of time wasting on it. So that was 100 of my points. I had 800 total, right? So I have 700 more. Somewhere I ought to be keeping track of how many points I have. I don't know where. Let's pick on another first fire that's doubled. Another 5 to 1 at even. And another shitty 10, so another 40% hit. Okay. Now I've got 600 left. Jump troop doesn't seem like a great thing to hit. Let us beat up on this thing with 100. That gets me, again, 5 to 1. This, although it's elite and armor, it doesn't help them on defense. It's Tech 14, so it's at even again. This time I get a very good roll and do 90% damage to it. Okay. So that was 7, 6. Now I'm at 500. Let's go for the first fire jump troops. I don't know. Yeah. That's again 90%. Seven, 6, 5, 4 left. Let's get these 3. And we'll beat up on this armor as well. Let's do the armor first because we're at even on the armor. I hope I did that right. No, we're at We're at -1 on the armor, which is good. 8. That's going to be a 60% hit on that thing. Okay, and then these others are at even. %60 hit on that armor. Now, ground combat, unlike naval and SDB, but not STDs, 10. That's 40% hit on that. Is a single round. I think that's a 90%. It's hard to follow the numbers. I have trouble with straight lines. Okay. Now, we pay the price though. That 1,200 is gone. And this is 40% down. And all of this is on planet unless I want to lift them up. Mess looks something like this. Good luck. Oh boy. Well, that got us through the combat phase. And now we're on plotting and reorganization. And we have to worry about, hey, what's up with this fleet? You know, this fleet. We have not taken Jewel. So some of our ships may be refueled, others may not. We do have another fleet available. I could dispatch some ships to go, chasing after the Imperial fleet. But I know that this is their major fleet. Maybe I don't want to, risk too much. That's all stuff that I'm going to think about. Right now, I need to get away from this thing because it is painful. All right, working on those plots. I got through the Zodani plots, and I wanted to point out what I'm doing with them. I circled the current turn that's been executed and have extended all the plots by 1. The no fuel for the first assault fleet is actually okay. I will achieve fuel from the gas giants in the next turn, I think, because gas giants allow you to refuel with a full turn of resting, even though, there's SBDs there. There's no enemy fleet or anything. Even if there was an enemy fleet, I could sit around. Well, if there's an enemy fleet, I have to fight it. That's the difference. The SBDs can hide from me. I have not yet started with the Imperial fleet because I have to figure out where it all is and what it's up to. For the most part, they're not able to do a whole hell of a lot, but yeah, on to them. One of the key factors here is whether or not to bring stuff into Jewel. I'm not facing a lot of SDBs left. I've wiped most of them out. Once they're gone, whenever that happens, then my fleets are safe. They're not going to get knocked out. But as it stands, I've taken some damage on this already. And I can't get out of there this turn. But I may end up splitting that fleet. Which is a reason to get another admiral there. I'm trying to see. I have my spare admiral over here. On the other hand, I have a 4-turn resuscitation rate. So kind of the question is, well, what's going in there when? I might be able to get a better admiral in there. That hex is 1510. The 17th Colonial will be there in 2 turns. with a 2-turn cycle. And now I have to also check to make sure that the first assault has a lower rank to him. Anyone else going into there? Pretty sure it's not. Right. I don't think anyone else is going in there. So that's sort of the best that I've got. Yeah, maybe it's worth plotting another fleet ahead of time. Shit. Whew. Because we're talking about the same cycle rate, but there's no real reason for me to have a better admiral if I can get out of there at the same time. And that'll let me push back and be able to get my replacement points spent to repair. You know, I don't know if it's worth repairing the cruisers, but it's definitely worth repairing the battle squadrons, and they'll probably be more damaged after this. Let's reverse the points. Because the cruisers that are present there have all dropped to a jump of 2. The battle fleet has kept its full jump capacity. That kind of changes things. I also have another spare admiral kicking around over here in Kronar who I can put up to pull reinforcements forward. So the real question becomes, hey, how much naval damage am I expecting to get? Because right now I have 30 squadron replacement points. You know, am I going to be taking a lot more battleship hits, or that I want to recover? Well, that I absolutely, you know, sort of must recover. They're my best stuff. Or is it worth spending some of that 30 on the cruisers? At this point, I think I'm going to spend on the cruisers, so I'm sending them back, which is what's slowing me down. Otherwise, I could do, other than the time thing, I could just jump straight to whatever this is. Imperial fleets are pretty easy to plot. There aren't a lot of them, but they're way out there. The earliest plot that I have isn't going to take effect until turn 3. That's my big fleet. The others I've got moving about. The first provisional is the interesting one. That's got a 0, you know, turn order delay. So, you know, I got a space for it down here, because what the hell, but I don't actually need to write any plots for it. There's not a whole hell of a lot I can do right now. I don't have the kind of force to face the Zodani forces. I might have enough to face the Vargar in my big fleet, so that's where I'm sending it. And I think that is the end of turn 1. We'll figure out how I track turns. Right now I'm tracking them by circling the number that as I operate it, but I think I probably ought to be keeping track of the turns. I also probably ought to write down the replacements and points somewhere. I haven't decided where again. We'll make a decision. But yeah, and I think we put another turn on this video. Feeling a little disoriented, but yeah, and come to it tomorrow. Sort of the first thing that happens in the turn is the reinforcement and replacement phase. The turn 2 has specific reinforcements for the Imperials. These consist of 3 new fleets, which will be very useful, right? I seem to be low on fleets. That's fine. And 3 new admirals. Where do the admirals start? It doesn't say. So normally reinforcements come in from a specific place. here, what it says is, on turn 2, the Imperial player automatically receives 3 fleets plus the associated 3 admirals and 3 draws from the special group. I guess they all come in at the Imperial reinforcements box. That's the only reasonable solution I can come up with. That's what you would normally get. Fair draw of admirals. I moved these out of the box. They're not really there. They're just a reminder. And I got actually 3 assault ships, transport ships. I don't know if I want to create a fleet just to move the transports. I don't feel like I really need to move troops around all that badly at this point. They could be used to evacuate certain planets that are maybe at risk. But if they're actually at risk, I'm not sure I want to put the assault ship up there. And if they're not at risk, I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's probably some troops I want to move around, but it's so hard to picture because the way that the planetary display shows things in a geographical sort of way, and then these boxes, the boxes end up, you know, they're mostly empty, so it's like, I don't know where the troops are and where they're not. I can make guesses, but, you know, so for example, Rylanor probably has some troops on it that I might want to move. Nope. How about that? It didn't start with any. If anything, I kind of want to get something there, but I don't know if I need to. It all depends on what those guerrillas do. Admirals, though, I am going to want to move because I don't have any guarantee of fleets for this. Do I? I do not. So I'm going to want to get things set up over there. I actually may want to move the assault ships there. I got a lot of troops. Got a whole lot of troops. How about that? Yeah. So probably all of that's going to head over there. I might send an admiral somewhere else. Try to create a fleet if there's anything mobile that I want a fleet for. I'm not sure there is. I got these C1 ships. I guess I could gather them together with an admiral. The X-boat movement, I'm following the rules right now, pushing some admirals out to planets. But honestly, yeah, there's one. Keeping them on the planetary boxes makes them disappear the same way the troops disappear. Now, with the troops, not so big a deal. That's not what the game is really about. It's about the big naval movements, and the troops are just kind of holding a location. It makes sense that they're in the holding boxes. Makes a whole lot less sense with the admirals. I may end up moving them to the board because I may well end up forgetting that they're there at all and up to something. And it's also hard to find. The transference, if I look around, you know, if I remember to look around and look for all my admirals, the transference from admiral, in fact, I'm just going to do it. The transference from this box to the map is a hard thing. I have to basically search all over if I don't just know where it is already. And I do know where these are, so I'm going to put them there. Now, this has some potential problem. For example, Rylanor, if it's captured, that admiral is gone, you know, but that's easier to cope with. If I win a battle and completely conquer the planet, I've got other things I got to do. I got to move some points over there, and I probably do want to study the strategic implications on my moves. So catching something like that is first of all, a much rarer occurrence, and secondly, is likely to require me to look on the board anyway. So I'm just going to keep the admirals on the board, even though they're not supposed to be. Battle at Jewel. Draws some attention. Now, Jewel is 1510. Now I have to check to see what's getting there. Turn 3, the 17th Colonial is going to get there. But here's the thing. I could bring the 15th Colonial in there now. And this is the first assault fleet. I got hits I can take on it still. Granted, they're on the battle cruisers. So I think I'm going to actually expand out to here. Problem is there's a danger that I'm getting too close to the 212th. If I could paw through the enemy's force, I would actually see that that's a jump 4 capable fleet. I don't have much worry about that kind of speed though. So I feel like it's a fair choice there. Emerald has already fallen, right? Or I've got plans to take Emerald from here. If I move the 15th Colonial into this hex, the first assault fleet's commander is less ranked than the 15th Colonial. And he's very good. He's got a 1-turn turnaround and a +3 combat bonus. He's the guy I want in charge of my big fleet, not the guy who's sitting on the 15th Colonial. That is the primary decision that is going to make me make this jump instead to Lyson. Assuming I'm fueled, which I should be. Lyson has troops on it. I'm going to have to deal with those. It has like 1 strength point, you know. So I'm going to put one of these up there just to indicate that that's a new planet that I got to do stuff with. There are others that are new planets that I got to do stuff with. This over here essentially is. So when I process that, I'll move the disk up on top again to indicate, hey, something's going on here. This isn't just a conquered planet that I'm sitting at refueling. This Imperial movement point plot is next turn, so nothing is moving yet for them. For the Zodani, you can see I've marked where stuff is happening to some extent. These are just conquered, but we've expanded into Pixie. Up here, the Jaril fleet, since there's no Imperial presence there, I'm going to just take care of this. They have to pick up this unit from Ballant, get themselves another ground unit, which they are then going to go join up in Pixie. Again, I'm dangerously close to the Imperial main central combat like group right now. And we'll just rotate things back to indicate that I have taken care of these things that I marked moved. And that will get us to the combat phase where, yep, there's a few things we got to resolve, but I got to do work. Pass through, I started to mark up my combat chart. I'm surprised I haven't done this before, but I used to be more, I don't know, respectful, not really, unwilling to mark things up. But for this game, I think you really need it. So like surface bombardment, this has one thing, the tech level modifier. I think what I screwed up though is on the troop combat results, I think I used a modifier between the tech levels as a plus minus to the die roll. The effect is almost the same, so I'm not going to worry about it. But what it should be is the tech level difference is an odds shift and the atmosphere is the modifier. And I'll note those down here and probably end up transferring it so that it's on both of the combat sheets. If I don't know what the chance of me ever playing this opposed again is. I convinced my past wife, we got to distinguish ex and past, right? Because it seems disrespectful to say my dead wife, right? I don't know. I never would have used the word past in any other context, in any other context. Like, I'm always like, well, they died, But in this particular case, it seems better as an adjective. I could also call her my powdered wife. And no, I mean, this is my way of coping. But anyway, I really doubt that I will ever try to convince somebody else to play something of this nature. It's just not that fun a game. I'm not sure what
why I picked doing this with her. I find that maybe I didn't. No, I did this with my ex-wife, my first wife. Yeah, I can't imagine that. And in that case, we did something called the walkthrough of history. I'm trying to remember why I have two playings listed, again, out of probably closer to 10. But the reason is, by the time I was tracking cards, I was like, oh, since I have them sorted by period, let's, go through all of history. Well, we did that, and then I was like, yeah, but we got to do the science fiction and the fantasy too. And she went along with me on it, and we actually got through the larger part of my collection, but my collection was a lot smaller then. But anyway, I really doubt I'll ever do that with anyone again, and this is not a game that I can see trying to push someone to play, unless like they were a Traveler fanatic. Something else I forgot to bring up. When I was mentioning running through kind of the games, there's an Imperium. When I was running through the games that I have that kind of cover something sort of similar to this, I was having a hard time finding one. Imperium is definitely one that does fit. Web and Starship, other than being a 3-player situation, probably fits. That's over here. Some of the others I haven't played, so I'm not so sure. And then there's some of the, I think Star Force Alpha Centauri or something like that. One of the SPI ones fits well into this kind of span of, an operational space warfare game. Company War was sort of by, hey, that's the only good one out of it. I forgot about one, which I know a lot of people like, and it's hard to believe that I forgot about it, except that I do not have it up here, which is Federation and Empire, which I actually have played quite a few times, and like this, never got very far into it. Usually I would play that playing the battles out with SFB. I wanted to play the battles out with this using Traveler. The problem is it does not define the ships under High Guard. I could definitely have seen, if like I hadn't had Fed and Emp and had very few games and was really into Traveler, I could definitely see trying to create ships based on these values to try to come up with some kind of, hey, this is what it is. It usually works better in the other direction, where you're like, oh, this is a specific ship type, and it's used in a battle game, and then, like in Fed and Emp, moving that up to the strategic board and trying to give it some kind of combat values based on that. Now, with Fed and Emp, that didn't work very well. Honestly, fleet battles in Fed and Emp, fleet battles in Starfleet battles, I have to say, the valuation of the weaponry changes significantly when you're playing with huge fleets. And there's certain weapon types that are just too potent. Period. I don't know. I don't know where they came up with some of the decisions they made in terms of balancing as they went later in the game, and I dropped out at some point. But yeah. But in terms of the game itself, doing it as anything other than a scenario generator, it's kind of dull like this. And the problem with it as a scenario generator is playing the strategic game, the battles do not look like the battles that you're fighting in SFB. So the ratings on the ships, which are, some kind of uniform decision on, the combination of the cost of the ship and how good it is in combat. Yeah, when you actually start fighting that out and somebody throws wave upon wave of drones at you, all targeting, a couple of your ships, they're able to do so damn much more to you. And then other things like tactics that occur in the fleet battles in SFB, things like retrograde maneuvers and stuff. you can't really account for them in the game. You know, fights in a hex, like in this game, spaceships get together, they start shooting at each other, they wear each other down, somebody can either retreat or not. Well, in SFB, you can stay in the area and fly around moving backwards or whatever, keep your enemy in front of you as much as you can. You slow down a little bit if you have to, whatever. And you can occupy something indefinitely in that game's turn. The problem is the strategic to tactical link doesn't work very well. And it doesn't work very well within SFB either, where they give the SFB campaign scenarios where they're like, the winner of this scenario gets to keep that space. Yeah, well, the winner of the scenario might not exist because there's no rules for who wins when neither side chooses to actually be aggressive. And, you know, and clearly the advantage in that game goes to being defensive. In positioning. You're just able to cause too many problems for the enemy. We've gone completely off topic, of course, so I'm going to write those mods down on the chart, which is what I really wanted to say. Leaving the guerrillas alone because I kind of screwed up with them. There might be places where they would be better, but you know, honestly, unless I had them spread out at small worlds that don't have PDBs, then they would be equally unsafe anywhere else. So as they stand, they're sitting on some important worlds. Now, the Rylanor, well, that's a hell of a call. I'm not going to make it there. And that probably was a mistake. But the others, it would have actually made sense to put some on Jewel, because this is turning out to be a mess, to get it out of the way quickly. Or maybe Regina or something along that line. As I have it at a fate. That's on my path, and I'm going to hit that. I had kind of been looking at it as these should be standalone things, but I don't think they can be. I think what they really are is troops that are meant, you know, that are best used to help overwhelm a large planetary garrison, because they will be a good percentage of that. And the fleet then can take out the SDBs. Anyway, I've done everything except for, I should put a marker on Esalen. I don't know what to put there. I need something to remind me of it. Right now I can still remember it, so I'll find some other token for it. But it doesn't really fit the control marker on top type situation. There's no fleet, there's nothing there to deal with. So I need something to say, hey, there's ongoing ground conflict there. Right now the Imperials won a big move there. Everywhere else, except for down here where the Sword Worlds is still being cowardly, everywhere else was conquered with basically no problem. No losses, whatever. This is the big ouchie, and we'll take care of that. Zodon have hit a hitch here in this fight. And the numbers on the squadron against SDB chart are lousy enough that we actually were very unlikely with the high tech level of the planet. 12. It's a penalty here, but it's still 6 on the chart, to be able to hunt those SDBs down. So we ended up having to break off after a round of combat, taking a couple more hits. There's almost no SDBs there left. They're still shooting, like, if we were firing against the actual number of SDBs, but you fire against the total original SDB, right? Yeah, the full strength of the SDBs. Well, the full strength of the SDBs is very hard to wipe out. The 12 strength points that are there, I could bomb to shit with no problem, but I don't use that table. I used this one, and with the -6 on the die roll, I had to roll a 6 to be able to hit it, to get it to 0. Before I was, doing some damage, right, each round. Well, it turns out I'm not in that good a position, and then the fire back put me in a place where I can't possibly hit him anymore, so I'm pulling the Navy out of the way. That's a problem, because this little SDB is allowed to do a round of bombardment, and although there's not much ground troops left, the Zodani invasion force is all on planet and are going to get bombed slowly away. My answer to that is this. I've got a bunch of bombardment factors on scout ships that I'm detaching and going to send in to help. I had made that decision before I saw this result that, yeah, I probably will need that. I didn't realize how bad it was. I knew it was deteriorating for the Zodani. And let's talk about these scout ships. I don't know what the hell they represent. I have not seen anything in the Traveler universe that indicates that the Imperial Scout Service has huge planetary bombardment capabilities that are greater than, these Death Star-looking battleships and whatnot that the game has in... there's a number of supplements that contain ships in them, fighting ships, whatnot. I saw nothing that shows things that have absolutely no capacity to fire offensively and huge planetary bombardment capabilities. I don't know what they are. I don't know why they're attached to the Scout Service. The only thing I can vaguely think of is it had been noted, and I don't remember exactly where, maybe more than one place, that you can use sandcasters as weapons to suppress ground forces. And even the tiniest scout ships generally are equipped with at least one sandcaster. Now, this is a defensive weapon that that's meant to diffract particle weaponry and beam weaponry, more than particle. It serves as a minor defensive advantage, but for unarmored ground troops, it would be pretty devastating to get swept with a sandcaster. It would flay them, So it sounds really good against primitive forces that aren't wearing any kind of armored infantry or anything like that. Okay, I can buy that, except that all of the Imperial naval ships basically have the capacity to use sandcasters as well. So I don't know what the fuck it's meant to reflect. And those bombardment numbers, that's there's weapons bays that hold missiles and plasma weapons and shit like that really seem prepared for planetary bombardment. Those are naval weapons. The scout ships that I've seen, and there are some larger than the normal, scout ship that's available, they're largely meant for scientific exploration and everything. The normal scout ship is kind of here's what the adventurer gets, right? And it's able to hold 6 people or whatever. The heavier scout ships have weaponry. In fact, the player scout ship doesn't come with weaponry, but it can be modified so that it has some firepower. And it's just kind of crazy to me that these are there. What I'm looking at them as is some kind of easily dispatchable planetary assault ships, some kind of reserve ship. They have reasonable defensive values, they're big ships, but I don't know what they're meant to be. Anyway, they should be able to help quite a bit in terms of relieving this problem. But I got to go through one round of bombardment first. And sorry for all the chatter. I'm in that kind of mood. All right, I want to go into something else because basically this thing's going to get wiped out. The bombardment didn't do anything. There's just not a lot of strength there, but
It might have. The neat thing about the bombardment is you get to pick what you're going to hit. And so I went after the biggest thing I could, the biggest formation I could find. And that makes sense. The smaller formations are more dispersed. The bigger one is a conglomerated formation and is more, you know, susceptible to the heavy weapons, whatever. But no effect was done there. This is going to get wiped out. There's no question of that. I can get like 100 to 1 on it or whatever. But it has 60 strength points. Now, if I hit, the combat system is just fucked up. If I hit this, it's a 20 strength unit, 90% of it's dead. That means it has 2 strength points left. Okay. 2 strength points left. I could easily get, say, 3 to 1. That would be 6. Now, some of this you could make arguments for, some hand-wavy arguments. I'm just pointing out how weird the system actually is and what the implications are. So I'm hitting this unit with 6 strength points. That gets me the 3 to 1 chart. Basically, as long as I get an 11 or less, I will do the additional 10% and kill it. But if it were a full strength 2 strength point unit, and there are some of those, I know there are 1 strength point units, this wouldn't be sufficient. I'd want to get it up to the 10 or 100 to 1 table so I could destroy it in 1 blow. As it stands, I'm going to be allocating these forces to try to pick off the already damaged units. How much does that do for me? Not that much, because when you rebuild strength, it's basically a replacement point for strength, but I can take units from their front position and damaged units that serve perfectly fine as garrisons to planets and maybe better than full strength units. That can only be rebuilt as a full strength unit in the reinforcements box. So, you know, then it would have to be shipped onto the board, and it's a harder problem to get it into play. Whereas you can reinforce units from the local population, as far as I can see. All you have to be is a friendly controlled planet with no enemy forces present. The problem is apportioning this out. Well, I have, what was it, 60 right now. Okay, I'm gonna have to get me some decimal dice or something so that I can track this, because this is what really needs to be done. I'm gonna use 6 of those 60, which means I'm going to go down to 54 and then make this attack. And then that unit's out of play, right? I can't hit it anymore. Oh, actually, I probably can destroy this before I get to fire. Hold on. Let's do that first. Let's avoid this problem. So I have 102. I forgot about my first fire. 114, sorry, 126, doubled because it's armor, 126, and another 24, 150, I think, 150 to 60. That sounds like 2 to 1. And then we'll just roll this out because I get to do this first fire. 2 to 1. My tech level difference is 2. That gives me 2 column shifts. The atmosphere here is a -1. So I'm on the 5 to 1 at -1. Yeah, I probably kill it before it gets to attack. Well, that gets rid of my problem. There we go. And that'll go up here into the dead pile. And next turn, those scouts are going to come by, and somehow or another, and it may be because they're streamlined and whatever, because honestly, bombing SDBs is not the only way to get rid of them in Traveler. SDBs often tend to be planetary deployed ships, but the truth of the matter is, there are SDBs in the Traveler universe that are not streamlined, that are basically
just non-warp capable ships. And there are SDB carriers, which are not being covered in here, which are very similar to what's used in the company war, by the way, which is why I kind of like that. I feel like that's just such a cleaner system that I would be intrigued to try to create something like it for the spinward marches, the wars that occur around here. And you could actually use this map for multiple wars. There's a lot you could do. Unfortunately, I don't have much information outside of the period that this is really, you know, where the original Traveler supplements were fixed, except for they also did some on the Soleimani Rim. Anyway, I don't know if I've captured this planet or not. I'm going to pretend that I haven't. If this was enough to win the game, I would start arguing about that. I still have the plots to do, but let's take a look at the points. I have gotten up to 93.5. That puts me in the marginal victory realm, but I am not allowed to do an armistice until turn 26. And then it would drop me 2 levels, and that would be an Imperial marginal victory. I'm just giving you an idea, though. I've made about 1/3 of the distance for sort of the complete Zodani automatic victory. And it wasn't too hard. Of course, nothing's on the board yet for the Imperials. But this is in 2 turns, you know. How much further do we go? I know that I've played fair amounts of it, but I didn't put as much thinking into the initial attack as I did this time, and I still don't put as much as like probably should be done. You know, I mean, if you were doing a military operation trying to figure out how to get to 300 victory points for some reason, you know, but if you came to some kind of, we think they'll surrender if we hit them this hard type of goal. You can probably do quite a bit of detail to figure that out. And you can do the same kind of, what I call gamey work, you know, but some of it is operational planning, and it actually makes sense in that case. So, you know, you can actually put a lot more detail into what your planning is. And you might be able to figure out that you can easily get to, say, 200 by turn 4 or something along those lines, depending on how you split things up, by optimizing your routes and everything like that. I know this is a rich area, though, and that's one of the things. The jewel subsector is very rich, and I think if you go into these, the tech levels start getting a little lower. Anyway, I'll put all my pieces back and start my plots. I've got some young ones here, but I think they're hard to see through the dirt. They're not tiny. I had some really tiny ones before that I wanted to catch. I don't think the vision is that good on these guys. The mother just went by too. Oh well. I forgot about this. Plotting out some of my Zodon, well, I finished my Zodon plot. And one thing I found is I've got colonial ships that only have a jump of 2, and they kind of get cut off here. I knew this happened, or I've seen this happen before in games, where I've diverted everything here when really this is the path I should be taking down. Now I can get back onto that path eventually. But right now, it does create kind of a weird bottleneck where I've got ships that are too slow, bopping around up here. It kind of is helpful because they can help protect against that if that decides to go in my direction, which is not, but it's a different matter. Anyway, plenty of mistakes all around. I probably doing better with the Zodon than I have previously, but not by much. It's just, this level of planning is just painful to me. All right, let's go on to the Imperials. for plot. That's a wrap. Nothing too exciting there. And we'll see how things float out. But yeah, this is the end of 2 turns. I'm going to load it up after I babble a little bit. We already talked about the points. I think we're going to back away more and more. The second turn, I didn't go through all the mechanisms. Probably get a few turns in per video, which means, given that I'll probably chat just as much about just random bullshit, they're still not going to come out really fast and furious in terms of like, you know, I could conceivably just show you almost a time lapse with a little discussion of what happened each turn and how far we got. And if I focused on playing really hard, that's what would happen. Otherwise, though, my more likely way is to put lots of babbling in, and we'd get like, you know, maybe 3 or 4 turns in on each video. But the more turns, the longer between videos, basically. So this is a long game, so I'd expect, unless I take breaks to do other things, which might happen, I'd expect to be bored out of your skull by it fairly soon. All right, cheers.